Hey everyone, welcome back to another wild HOA nightmare story. And trust me, this one starts with a woman walking into my driveway, pointing at my brand new ATV like she already owned it, and demanding I hand over the keys. Yeah, that actually happened. And somehow it only got crazier from there. So I bought my house in this quiet little suburban neighborhood about 3 years ago. Before I signed anything, I sat down with the HOA bylaws and read every single page because I'd heard the horror stories, you know what I mean? I figured if I was gonna live under an HOA, I wanted to know exactly what I was agreeing to. Honestly, at first, it seemed normal enough. Keep your lawn trimmed, don't leave garbage cans out all week, don't paint your house neon green. Basic stuff. Nothing unreasonable. Then I met Diane. Diane was the HOA president, and somehow she treated that unpaid volunteer position like she'd been appointed governor of the neighborhood. This woman lived for control. I'm serious. She once measured the spacing between my driveway pavers with a tape measure and tried to fine me because one side was visually inconsistent. Another time she complained my porch light was too bright and claimed it was disrupting nocturnal wildlife patterns. It was a regular 60-watt bulb. Most people just gave in because fighting her was exhausting. But I never really played along. I followed the actual rules, paid my dues, showed up to meetings occasionally. But I didn't bow to her little power trips. And I think that drove her insane. Now here's where things really started spiraling. A few months ago, after saving for years, I finally bought myself a Polaris ATV. Beautiful machine too, matte black, heavy-duty suspension, the kind of thing you look back at while walking away because you're proud you earned it. I kept it parked neatly under my carport on a concrete pad, completely within HOA rules. The day after I brought it home, I was outside wiping dust off the seat when I heard flip-flops smacking against pavement behind me. I turned around and there was Diane marching up my driveway with her clipboard tucked under one arm like she was arriving to inspect troops. She didn't even say hello. She just stared at the ATV for a few seconds, nodded slowly, then said, "Perfect. My golf cart's been unreliable lately. Leave the keys in your mailbox tomorrow morning so I can use this for neighborhood patrol." I actually laughed at first because I thought she had to be joking. She wasn't. I said, "Absolutely not." And the way her face changed, man. It was like somebody flipped a switch. That fake smile disappeared instantly. "Excuse me?" she snapped. I said, "It's my ATV, my property. You're not borrowing it." Then she hit me with this line I still can't believe came out of a grown woman's mouth. "As HOA president, I'm authorized to utilize community assets for neighborhood operations." Community assets. Lady, this thing cost me 10 grand. I told her no again, politely at first, then less politely when she refused to leave my driveway. Finally, I just walked inside and locked the door while she stood out there glaring at my house like a Disney villain plotting revenge. And oh, she absolutely plotted revenge. 2 days later, I got a violation notice in my mailbox claiming recreational off-road vehicles were prohibited on residential property. Problem was, that rule didn't exist. I knew because unlike Diane, I'd actually read the bylaws. So I ignored it. Next day, another letter. $50 fine. Day after that, $100 for failure to cooperate with community directives. Then another, and another. Every single day this woman stuffed fake violations into my mailbox, hoping I'd eventually crack and hand over the ATV just to make the harassment stop. But instead of arguing, I started keeping records. Every letter, every fake fine, every ridiculous complaint. All neatly filed in a binder. And yeah, maybe I got a little petty too. Every weekend I'd load the ATV onto my trailer, drive past Diane's house real slow, and give her a cheerful little wave. She hated that. You could practically feel steam coming out of her ears. Now here's the twist nobody in the neighborhood expected. One evening my neighbor Linda, sweet older woman, retired nurse, keeps bird feeders everywhere, quietly stopped me while I was getting my mail. She leaned in and whispered, "You're not the only one she's targeting." Turns out Diane had been terrorizing half the neighborhood for years. Linda showed me folders full of fake citations over flower pots, wind chimes, even a complaint about aggressive garden gnomes. I swear I'm not making that up, but nobody challenged her because they were scared she'd make life miserable. That conversation changed everything for me because suddenly it wasn't just about my ATV anymore. This woman had been bullying people for years. Then came the morning things exploded. I was homesick with a cold, sitting at my kitchen table drinking tea when I heard this loud diesel engine outside. Deep rumbling, hydraulic whining. I looked out the window and my stomach dropped. Tow truck. Huge one too. The driver already had chains hooked around my ATV. I ran outside in my socks yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" The driver barely looked at me, just shrugged and said, "Got authorization from the property manager." That's when I called 911. And right on cue, here comes Diane strutting across the street wearing sunglasses like she was arriving at a movie premiere. She had this smug little smile on her face too. "Oh good," she said loudly. "You're finally complying." I told her the police were coming. She actually laughed. "I have authority under the HOA bylaws," she said. "That vehicle is being impounded." I didn't even argue anymore. I just stood there holding my phone while the tow truck idled in my driveway. Then the cops showed up. 2 squad cars. And suddenly every curtain in the neighborhood started twitching. People came outside pretending to water plants or check mail. Meanwhile, everybody was absolutely watching the show. Diane immediately ran over to the officers with her clipboard, talking a mile a minute about community standards and unauthorized nuisance vehicles. One officer came over to me while the other talked to the tow truck driver. I explained the situation calmly, told him the ATV was legally parked on my private property, and mentioned Diane tried to borrow it weeks earlier. The officer raised an eyebrow at that. Then he asked the tow truck driver for the authorization paperwork. The second that officer read the form, his entire expression changed. He walked straight back toward Diane holding the paperwork out in front of him and asked, "Ma'am, did you sign this?" "Of course," she said proudly. "I'm the HOA president." The officer sighed. You know that exhausted cop sigh where they already know somebody's about to ruin their own life? Then he said, very slowly, "An HOA cannot authorize removal of a vehicle from private property without a court order." Silence. Diane blinked a few times like her brain stopped buffering. Then the tow truck driver suddenly turned pale. Because apparently, Diane had told his company she owned the property. Yeah. She forged authorization papers claiming she was the legal property owner. The driver lost it. He started yelling, "She lied to us. We have recorded calls." And let me tell you, watching that man unhook my ATV was like watching NASCAR pit crew training. He got those chains off in about 4 seconds flat. Meanwhile, Diane kept trying to talk her way out of it. "It was a misunderstanding." "No, ma'am," the officer interrupted. "This is attempted vehicle theft." The whole street went dead quiet. You could literally hear birds chirping. And for the first time since I'd met her, Diane looked scared. The officers didn't arrest her right there, but they warned her if she stepped onto my property again, she'd be leaving in handcuffs. She stormed back inside her house while neighbors openly stared from their lawns. And honestly, that should have been the end of it. But I was done playing defense. The next morning I took my binder. Every fake fine, every harassment letter, every photo, every security camera recording, and brought it straight to the police station. Turns out Diane had dug herself into a much deeper hole than she realized. Because once investigators started looking, they discovered she'd been issuing fake fines for over a year without board approval. The management company never audited anything, so she basically operated like a tiny suburban dictator. A week later, right around dinner time, 2 police cruisers rolled back into the neighborhood. Everybody came outside again. And this time they weren't there for me. They walked right up to Diane's front door. She started yelling almost immediately. Even from across the street you could hear her losing it. Then one officer calmly turned her around and cuffed her right there on the porch.
Attempted grand theft auto.
Forgery. Fraudulent documentation. All because she couldn't handle being told no. And the craziest part? After she got arrested, several neighbors finally started speaking up. People came forward with years of complaints and fake violations. The HOA board removed Diane as president almost immediately, wiped out dozens of fraudulent fines, and launched an audit into everything she touched. Turns out Linda's aggressive garden gnome citation wasn't even close to the weirdest one. Some poor guy got fined because his American flag moved too aggressively during high winds. Yeah, seriously. As for Diane, last I heard she ended up buried in legal fees and moved out quietly a few months later. No goodbye, no apology, nothing. Just gone. But here's the part people still argue about. Some neighbors think I should have reported her sooner instead of letting things escalate. And honestly, maybe they're right. Maybe waving at her every weekend with the ATV strapped to my trailer wasn't exactly mature. But at the same time, if nobody finally pushed back, she probably would have kept bullying that neighborhood forever. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Was I justified for standing my ground and letting her expose herself? Or did I help turn the whole thing into unnecessary chaos? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I already know people are going to be divided on this one. And honestly, that's what makes these stories so entertaining.